morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Dell Management Center. It's my pleasure this morning to introduce our esteemed speakers. Today we're going to be talking about the face of the future, the Alibaba story. And I'd like to introduce the Executive Director of the Children's Executive Education Center, Dr. Alan
so I came
Middleton. Alan has been our Executive Director since 2001 and has led our organization to new heights. So without further ado, I'll have Alan introduce the rest of the speakers.
So welcome everybody, thanks for coming. I'm one of those people who's going to be standing up front and doing a lot of it, although I didn't do much of the work. Most of the work was done by Mary Bai, who's worked for us now 3 years. And Chan, who I'm not sure how long she's worked for us, but a reasonable amount of time anyway. Glenn runs our international business, and Mary helps him out and basically keeps him under control. Interesting is looking at an extremely good source of information about China, which is the newsletter sent out by the Canada-China Business Council, whose head is sitting right here, Sarah. And this came out yesterday, Sarah, the South China Morning Post, which was a comment from Alibaba that their big expansion, they're expecting 60 to 65% increases in traffic on Singles Day, and most of it they're expecting to come internationally, not just from within China. So Singles Day, which we'll talk about in a second for those of you who are not aware, is already the largest single trading day in the world. It makes US Black Monday look really tiny. And that's the power of what we're in. The other person I want to recognize in the audience is the head of our Alumni Council, Adrian. Yes, thanks for coming, Adrian. Good to see you here. Adrian will be passing out the exam papers at the end, okay, to make sure you're all paying attention. So we're here to talk about Alibaba and through that process give you a bit of an insight into what's going on with some of the key elements of the private sector in China. Although another interesting piece of information came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago that the Chinese government has expressed interest, I love that phrase, in taking minor shareholding in the private sector tech companies like Alibaba. So you're going to find in this presentation a lot of enthusiasm about what they're doing. And we'll conclude it by saying what are some of the implications for us here. But it's going to be a very different animal if the Chinese government take a significant interest. They already have an ability to control just by making phone calls. But it's going to be interesting if that shows, so keep your eye on it. So let's do some background. What's driving China's tech industries? And firstly, the sheer size of the market. It's already the world's second largest economy. It's the largest population in the world and will be at least for another 10 years. Then India overtakes it. But I mean, sheer size happens. Second, Jim Harris, who leads a whole series of consulting and disruptive innovation, knows that innovation does seem to move faster in China. The Chinese middle class are open for new ways to do things. You've got large numbers moving into the middle class, they've got the money to spend, and they want the comfort and ability of doing it quickly and seamlessly. So part of, like any good organization, I am a marketing guy, is meeting the needs of your customers, of the market. New industry startups need distinctiveness versus state-owned industries. Sarah will know much more about this than I will, but the likelihood of the Chinese government ever privatizing what they call strategic industries is low. So we're not going to see private telecommunication companies, we're not going to see private energy companies, resource-based companies. That will continue to be state-owned. But a large number of sectors has been, well, at least until the current head of the Chinese government put himself up there with Deng Xiaoping and Mao Zedong, and they've left them alone. Well, you know, it's going to be interesting to watch that. The other thing that's powering them is huge venture capital investment. $77 billion from combinations of government and other sectors in the last 2 to 3 years. And a lot of it going into, and you can see the list, fintech, virtual reality, AI, educational technology. So this is a country that's heavily investing in future technologies. The growth we've seen is e-commerce overall. It's massive growth. You'll see two numbers because different sources do different numbers. A chart in a minute shows e-commerce in China is about 18% of total purchases. Another, actually in my view, slightly more reliable, has it at 22%. The contrast is globally. If you look at the second largest country in terms of percentage of e-commerce, it's the UK at 17%. The US is still low at around 13%. So you're seeing a country very committed in terms of the habits of its people to working in the digital world. The one I mentioned, which is Singles Day, 11/11, 11th of November, so coming up in a couple of weeks, was last year the largest single coming. Now, interesting, last year's number was 30 billion. The number they're talking about for this year is almost double. So it would be very interesting to see what's going to happen. But the point is, on a single day, this has got more commerce going around than any other day anywhere else in the world put together. Online sales, so the number 250 billion, and still only 45% internet access. So you've got growth, not only in population, but growth in number of people moving online. Cross-border shopping is becoming so. When the president, not the president, that was the head of finance of Alibaba, talks about growing internationally, he means growing internationally, but he also means much more open to the whole movement of cross-border, whether it's Hong Kong or anywhere else. And online grocery business is also growing. I was at a seminar, an entrepreneurial seminar 3 weeks ago, and we had people from 10 different countries. We had this young woman who's in the fashion industry in China. And she was talking about how her parents shopped. And they get all their fresh food and vegetables online within 2 hours. So they put in an order, Alibaba gets it from the farmer, gets it straight to their homes within 2 hours of ordering. And it wasn't that I found amazing, and the rest of the audience found amazing. It was the automatic assumption, well, yes, of course that happens. Why wouldn't it happen? Because their parents have been doing this for a couple of years. So it's automatically part of their doing business. There's the growth, that's the 18, now 19% figure due for next year, and so that shows the e-commerce growth. Why is, I'm going to deal with some of the companies, and I'm going to hand on to my more knowledgeable friends. Why is this happening? Two reasons. One I've talked about, which is the growth of the middle class. But secondly, the stores per head of population in China were lower than the West. If you think about it, the West, and particularly North America in the post-war era and the use of the car, had been very heavily built up on retailers per head of population. China was always less so. There were corner stores, but there weren't the big supermarkets except for the last 20, 30 years. So this is a classic example of leapfrogging. But the point is, whatever the base reason, you've still got a very high proportion and high growth in online, and the expectation is it's just going to keep going. So, I'm talking about 6 privates. Jim Harris reminded me there's another couple I should be talking about, and I'll let him add into that. But just, we didn't want to go through all of them, but just to give you an idea of what the overall tech sector is, we are going to be talking about Alibaba today, about 23 billion, profit around 6 billion. And I won't say much more because Mary and Glenn will take you through the rather organic network within the way it actually operates. When I was first getting to know Alibaba, I thought, oh, this is the Japanese Keiretsu, cross-owning shareholdings. And it's not that simple. Steve Weiss, who's very much an expert on Japanese business, yes he is, knows how the Keiretsu and the Zaibatsu, which was the group that before the war operated. This is actually very different, very interesting. We'll learn from it. You also got Baidu. Baidu's smaller. Is a group buying company, food delivery, made a huge investment in AI. Actually, I could leave that out. They're all making huge investments in AI. So. You should also be aware of the other Ma, because although there's no relationship, the head of Tencent is also Mr. Ma. I love, I don't know if it works in Chinese as well, but I love the slings and arrows they throw at each other. Because Jack Ma says the other Ma doesn't understand international, and the Tencent Ma says Jack doesn't understand how to build a retail business. And besides which, Tencent has probably one of the most popular brands in China called WeChat. And anybody who doesn't know WeChat, go talk to your Chinese friends and find out what you can do on WeChat. Because basically anything. I think actually you could get pregnant on WeChat. Xiaomi, in the smartphone business, used to be called the Apple of China. Jim, the other one you said, Apple of China?
So Huawei
Yep.
just surpassed Apple as the second largest smartphone maker in the world. They're about 75 billion with 5 billion of net profit. And their real business is telco infrastructure
Right.
for developing nations. Well, not just developing nations, but
Absolutely.
like a Nortel of Canada used to be.
Yes. Oh, good. You're showing your age, Jim.
I know, sorry.
Just a little look at Xiaomi, the offline retail store. And it's a reminder, and we'll see this again with Alibaba, that everybody in North America in the last year and a half got excited about, gee, Amazon bought Whole Foods, they're getting into retailing. Well, duh, the Chinese have been doing this for years. And they've seen the crossover as one of the lessons we're going to talk about. The world of commerce and buying is not one or the other. It's an integrated system between the two. And this is one of the areas where the Chinese tech sector has been doing a much better job in integrating those two concepts. The West, we've tended to regard them as alternatives and not really integrating them. You've got Didi, which changed its mind, which was the group that picked up Uber's huge investment, with very little revenue in China. Interesting, they've got a 17 or 18% stake, but only 6% voting rights. The interesting thing about this company is how aggressively they've gone into the rest of Asia. Very strong in India, very strong in Indonesia, and a number of other areas. My other favorite, when I was in China in April, I got confronted with bicycles. Unlike these two, my first trip to China was 1989, and I got used to bicycles going around rather than cars. And this last April, we went back to bicycles again, and there we are, that's my shot. Because Ofu is one of the bike sharing services that goes on, and unlike the situation in North America where you actually have to take the bike back to a particular position, you just leave the bike around, because it's all controlled by the app. So actually they're beginning to have problems with it, because bikes being left around all over the place in Beijing and Shanghai. But you see the numbers. And now Mobile, which is the second biggest, the orange one, and Ofu in merger talks. I'm not up to date on that. Has anything gone through on that? I don't think so yet. But they're merger talking. So, what about Alibaba? So I get to do the summary, and then all the details and the insights can be done by Mary and Glenn. Founded in 1999, so 18 years old. Jack Ma, a very famous president, Sarah and I were just chatting about that man's ability on his feet in English, let alone Chinese, is amazing. You watch interviews with this guy, and I'll use the quote now that Bloomberg did an interview with him on his 18th anniversary, and asked what his objective was for the organization in another 18 years. And he said something. And I thought, no, he must have got the English wrong. So I typed off and messaged to a couple of people, and no, he hadn't got the English wrong. He was asked what his objective is, and his answer was to be the 5th largest economy in the world. He doesn't want to be the 5th largest company. He wants to be the 5th largest economy. You think about what visionary is alike, but also the clue in the word economy is the way he sees business. It's interrelated activities around an economic base. And we'll see that as that emerges through some of the background. So very interesting the way he sees it. He's integrated e-commerce, online, offline, and also payment systems, which Glenn and Alice will talk about. So if you haven't heard of Ant Financial, you are going to, because they're now the group in charge of Alipay, which was the payment system that Alibaba uses. They're moving into a data company, and that's how they define themselves now. They're a cloud. They're anything that can be done through the cloud. They are moving globally, especially Asia. They want to be the 5th largest economy, enable small business in all areas. They're one of the major supply chain. Mark runs our supply chain and logistics group. And they're one of the major deliverers, both from a source, farm and factory to home, but also all around the retail networks. So once again, Glenn and Mary will talk more about this, they've understood the interlinkage. The logistics isn't separate from the selling, which is not separate from the financing, which is not separate from the knowledge, which is not separate. It's all an ecosystem. And that's why we need to understand it. And the other thing he talks about, one of his goals, is, I love this. You know, can you imagine a North American CEO getting away with saying his objective is to create happiness, health, and to make life easier? You know, he'd be laughed out of court. Nobody laughs at Jack Ma. So, over to Mary. Or Glenn, or one of them. There you go.
Good morning. Thank you for having this opportunity to present some of the small project which started 6 months ago. And Alan, take a look at our raw data. Believe that it's going to be a profound business implication for the North America, particularly for North American market and North American companies. Let's go back to take this picture first. This picture actually was taken, I think, back to 5 years ago when Alibaba just celebrated their 10 years birthday. The point. These 18 people, they're actually the founder of the Alibaba back to 1996. And we call the 18罗汉, which is the 18 Buddha, supported the spirit. And these are Chinese, I translated. Back to 16 or 17 years ago, Ma Yun, Jackie Ma, they put their own money, around 100,000 Canadian dollars, to settle this company. And the Jackie Ma request that everyone take $100 Canadian dollars as their salary, and working 13 to 14 hours every day. And then they stay each other at Ma Yun's little 2-bedroom condo and started this business. And after that, if they are getting tired, someone just go to the 1-bedroom for sleep. And at that time, Jackie Ma's wife become like a cooker, kitchen chef, to cook the meals every day. So after 6 months, they got the first funding. So next one, probably I will give you a short video to take a look. How do I say? Hold on.
但是玩信息玩反弹，中国人绝不我们在我们所有的绝对不能这就是改革的我们绝对改革。如果我们是好的 team， 好的团队，我们自己知道我们想做什么，我们想干些什么的时候，我认为我们是可以赢的，我们能够赢这个东西，我们能够赢其他很多的一个企业大的企业的时候，肯定是我们精神、我们意识、我们创新的概念，以及我们的偏见才能去做。否则的话，跟他们是有区别的。谁都知道，应该那是泡沫。我刚才讲的危机的人，应该那个泡沫是越来越什么时候破？然后他股票掉，哎，一倍股票涨。那么有一天一倍股票涨以后，可能阿里巴巴社区的股票涨，所以不要担心。我觉得应该的梦不会破，这种泡沫不会破，我们会风雨山雨去，对，这是非常清楚。只有这样才能大家才会引导我们未来去发展。那么目标是2002年阿里巴巴上市。
That was taken.
1999.
That was the founding.
That's the founding. So at that time, I don't think, even myself at that time, back to 2001, I joined the internet company in Shanghai. So I actually had a chance to work for this company. And because our angel investor actually at the same time invested on my company and Alibaba's company. I think, what? You're talking about after 10 years, you're going to become the online shopping, the biggest player in the world. So another colleague said, no, this is too big. So the internet company, search engine, at that time, Baidu has already established a company in China. So I think search engine will be reasonable for me to join the company. So now, when you make his statements, it become true. So this item will talk about why strategy is most important. So how do you define strategy? It's not define strategy at this moment. And how do you foresee the strategy after decades? So I also will discuss about the other one is Marine now actually build another strategy in next decade. What is it? Alan will talk about it. So I'm going to hand over to Mary to talk about the Alibaba's philosophy and Alibaba's core business before IPO. So stick with us, and we will go through with you the ecosystem, how develop this ecosystem comes from.
Morning, everyone. Welcome to the session. This picture was listed in the Alibaba homepage. As you can see, you probably will recognize some of the application icon and also some of the name brand. This picture actually includes all Alibaba's core business, which I will introduce in the next slides. And the sentence on the left top corner is their mission to make it easy to do business anywhere. I divided their core business into sectors. The first one I want to introduce is their business-to-business sector. Alibaba.com is Alibaba Group's first market e-commerce website they built in 1999. This is the global online market website, which most of the users are trade agent, wholesaler, or retailers. This is their international wholesale platform. And 1688.com is the domestic wholesale market platform, which is basically engaged with sellers and buyers within China. And it sells items such as merchandise, raw materials, agriculture, chemical products, etc. The next one is their largest and the unique customer-to-customer market platform, which is called Taobao. Taobao is a platform which every individual can open and register account to sell their items online. And also, buyers are free to access to the website to buy items. Most of the users right now is using Taobao through their mobile phone. And most of the items you purchase from Taobao is actually free delivery. And also with Alibaba's large logistic platform, most of the items can be delivered to your house within 24 hours in China right now. The next one is their marketing platform, which is called Alimama. This is a unique marketing platform because it involves technology. They're using the big data as their foundation to provide marketing solutions to their merchants so that they can get better marketing promotions and ideas to attract consumers. The fourth one is business to custom. The first one, Tmall, have both domestic and international platforms. What is unique to this platform is all the items listed in this platform is branded. So Alibaba Group has verified each of their sellers, which they all have well-known brand either either from international or from China. And the next one I would like to introduce is AliExpress. This is the global platform which consumers can buy products from merchandise and also contributors directly. And most of users in this platform are from France, Russian, and also North America. And many of my friends in here, they had experienced purchase merchandise from this AliExpress. And the product quality is good, and also the delivery time is quite short. Like for international delivery is about 1 week. The third one I would like to introduce is called 聚划算.com. This is a sales and discount platform which contains flash sale through Taobao and also Tmall. And it brings new customers to Taobao and Tmall sellers by introduce a large discount. The next one is their strategic business, Ali Pictures. Ali Pictures is an internet-owned platform which they provide entertainment content discount and serving consumers and also cinema operators. The next one, Filigi, is their trip platform which you can book your vacation plans and book your air ticket, and also access to other vacation plan details. And they do provide very special discount which you cannot find from the other platform. The next one I would like to introduce is their Ali Sports. Ali Sports is the new platform they built, which they aim to reboost the sport industry by using technology and big data in the background. This part is the part which Alan and also Glenn mentioned before, is their finance part. And Ant Financial Group is a financial corporation which they focus to serve small and micro enterprises. and it has variety of platforms under Ant Financial, which I will introduce in the later stage. The next one is the biggest platform under Ant Financial, which is called Alipay. It's the third-party payment system which is widely used in the world. It supports both online and offline shopping experience. The Cainiao Logistics is the one I mentioned before. Why this is unique? It is because this is the platform which Alibaba built to connect hundreds of logistic companies within China and also within the global market, which keeps improving their logistic services by analyzing their users' shopping behavior and where they should connect to their nearest logistic station to make sure they deliver the package to their users on time. The last one I want to mention is their data center. The first one with the black icon is called Ali Cloud. And this is their computing cloud system, which they currently has data centers, more than 10 data centers across the world. And mostly are located in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and also United States. And it provides one-stop solutions to all the users. The YunOS is an international mobile operation system, which is similar as iOS or Android system, which is innovated by Alibaba. This system has been used in one of the car manufacturers in China right now. Let's take through all the core business by looking at their timelines and how Alibaba and when they built each of the platform. Alibaba was built in 1999, and their first platform was Alibaba.com and then 1688.com. This is their wholesale market. And after they built a wholesale market, they're trying to thinking, why can't we just buying and selling between individuals? And Taobao.com was launched in a critical moment, which is in 2003. In 2003, we have, luckily, we have a disease in China that is called SARS. So nobody is willing to go out because they think they might be infected by the disease. So Jack Ma has the idea, says, everyone is not willing to go out, so why don't we deliver the package to their house? That's how Taobao is established in 2003. And after Taobao is established, and because it involves a large amount of payment transactions, which online banking was not popular at that time, and most of the transactions in this platform are not that large amount. So people are not willing to go to the banks to wire the money to the sellers, because imagine, maybe the service fee is even larger than what you paid for your products. So Alibaba had this idea. They created their own payment platform, Alipay, in 2004. And the icon on the very top is Ali11, which is their medium by connecting users and sellers, they can have conversations about product details and also after-sales customer support. In 2007, that is when their marketing platform Alibaba was launched. So in 2008, they had an idea says, because in the Taobao and also their wholesale market, that is all the products which is not famous. They are thinking, why shouldn't we build up a platform which is sell the branded products? That's how they built Tmall.com. Tmall has both domestic and also international platform, which you can have choices of products across the world. And also they build up different countries' platform in Tmall, which is such as the United States webpage, which you can have products from Costco and also other products which is famous sold in the United States. Ali Cloud was built after Tmall. I think they had this idea because they have a large platform of e-commerce, and they start to thinking, how can we serve our customer better, which is building a data center. They start collecting data such as shopping behavior from their users. They foresee the future of big data at that time in 2009. And in 2010, Juhuasuan AliExpress was launched. They're trying to expand their business globally.
Go back to the question. You can see why we put the two Alipay, the third-party payments, and the two different timelines. It's because back to 2011, Chinese government now realized that the Alipay is going to be like very internal domestic payment. But back to 2004, Jack Ma actually accepted Yahoo's investment. So it's going to be create internal problems. So it's a foreign investment company that's holding the Chinese payments. The government's a little bit concerned about whether the foreigner is going to step into the financial sector. Although WOT has already signed a government contract, the Chinese is going to open the financial market, but eventually we haven't started that step yet. So Jack Ma spin off the Alipay from the Alibaba the group, and they're trying to be separate from Ali group the operation. That's going to become the huge decision maker and generate a profound influence that will come as Ali and the financial later. Then, so the company is still growing and established the key milestone for each year. And one thing I would like to mention the two parts. One is the single day. Single day actually literally created by Alibaba itself, because November 11th it becomes 4-1-1-1-1. So they say, okay, like a single man. So okay, why don't we create this name as single day? So that at the beginning they call it single bachelor party shopping festivals. Then they shrink to this is single day. And the other one we'll talk about a little about is we call it 芝麻 credit. In Chinese we call sashimi credit. This is actually the Alibaba's credit score system. Then you can buy, according to statistics, your buying behave and your purchase power and your payment the credibility. They calculate your Alibaba's credit score. And then now you can use Alibaba credit score to go for the airport for express checking if your sashimi score is up above to 600 score. And you even can pay for your get first night 50% of the discount in the hotel. The latest one is back to the previous page you saw the database and Aliyun. This is 2009. they have not moved very fast. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, they heavily switched Ali Yun, become the AI cloud service. So let's take a very quick snapshot for Alibaba, the e-commerce global expansion. You can see 2014, they put the foreign companies for the Taobao. And then they acquired the India market. And then they signed an agreement with South Korea market because a lot of Chinese people go to Korea for the makeup or cosmetics during the national holiday. So 2 years ago, they put the Mercy in the Tmall. And the Chinese customer actually can buy the goods, particularly for the Black Friday and the Christmas, from the Mercy website, but on the Tmall. Then last year, they put the Japanese Merchandise Center. And I think last year, at the same time, Justin Trudeau launched the Canadian shopping center with Jackie Ma together. They're going to deliver the lobster from the East Coast to China directly. But I remember they only take 2 days from New Brunswick and East Provincial to China. So what does that mean for us, and why the company, starting from the little potato and keep growing up to be today's most of people's impression, Alibaba is still an e-commerce company, but which is not. So Alan will share with us how Alibaba is growing.
Okay, so we're going to go back and talk about Alipay a little more in a minute, but let's pause and say, how are they growing? And all sectors to them are related. You saw the story. So as they go on to one, it's like networking. And one of the words I want you to take away is networking. Because this is a company built on networks of relationship, networks of interrelated transactions, and they just keep adding to it. And that's why he used the word economy, which I find very interesting. Use of technology, and especially now they see themselves as a tech and a cloud company. So they're going to do that across every section. Hire a great management team. I don't have to tell most of you about that as a secret. He seems to manage to do it. But the trick is, when I summarize it at the end, competitive but cooperative. How do you manage that? Because what he's got is those different groups, and yes, they're all striving, like most Western organizations, to achieve the best in their division. But they also organize so they're constantly meeting together to come up with things that cross the lines of business. And they get rewarded for the ideas that come out across the lines of the business. So that's an innovation play. Talent acquisition. We talked about strong entrepreneurial culture and very built on building blocks. There's a traditional way. Glenn told me this was their sugarcane idea, which is a way of doing your integration, and it's all the textbooks and strategy books and everything else, and this is where you do it, and you have different activities. This is the way Alibaba thinks about it. They pull them all together. So there are specialists, but the specialists work not only in separate divisions, but in constant teams all the time. So they are constantly, now, we're learning that a little bit. We were at a insurance company, which will remain nameless, and there in their innovation center, the chief risk officer now has his office in the middle of their innovation center. So we're beginning to get this, but this model is what Alibaba set up for a while. The way I summarize this is a difference between a rigid and a flexible organization, or to use the buzzwords, an agile organization. So some of the contrasts, and we'll go back to Alibaba, but this is what you're going to see. In a more rigid organization, individual responsibility for unit performance, that's what you get away from. Agile, collective responsibility in the remuneration system as well as expected activity. Independent units pursue separate business strategy, they integrate across, so there's constantly. In the days Jack Welch ran GE and they had 4 separate businesses, he once described himself as a bee. And his job was to pollinate the ideas between the different sections. Unfortunately, it was just Jack Welch. What Alibaba is set up to do is this is built into the structure that the people get together and cooperate. Financial measures and controls and delegation of strategic choices, many more transparent measures. You know, balanced scorecard first came out in 1996. How much attention is it paid in most companies? Not enough. Because the financial measures are as a result of the other things. So they're looking at much deeper measurements and a lot of dialogue. I mean, you know, we recently showed you the video and how they started up. That's very much what Jack Ma has in mind. That's very much how he sees the world. Got 18 people all to sleep together. I don't mean that sexually. Well, maybe they do, because a couple of them did get married. But, you know, I mean, that's the way they think. They're doing it as group ideas, much better than Western organizations. On rigid, functional, and unit-specific, lots of overlapping responsibility built into their job descriptions. Results-oriented, very much value-oriented, and you get the idea of where Jack Ma wants to go and where the organization wants to go. You know, fifth largest economy, health and well-being, you see all that going on. So, Glenn, do you want to talk about very quickly some of their specific things they've done lately?
But in North America, I haven't seen a lot of the big logistic companies such as the DHL, FedEx. They are collaborating each other to share the data, try to squeeze the internal process and helping to speed up the whole service. Once Jackie Ma realized that he has such a big customer base and such large volume of the goods, and he decided, I don't want to establish my hardware and warehouse physically. He actually developed a platform to open the data source, encourage all of the Chinese logistic company connected this database. And by using Aliyun's technology and AI calculation, and give them each their logistic company optimized delivery recommendation, and goods and service the scheduling, and actually helping Jackie Ma's own customer base to share the synergy of sharing those data.
So just to pause there. That open to everybody is an idea our banks, and the global banks got into a little bit, because the behind-the-scenes sorting system, there's a SWIFT system and everything else. And again, it's very much things we have to learn, where you don't collude or get in trouble with Competition Bureau. What transactions, what actions can you as a whole industry do better behind the scenes, so you actually compete on the important stuff, rather than set up every darn organization setting up its own credit clearing system, or in this case, its own logistics system. So our banks partly got there with things like the SWIFT system, but we've stalled. And what this represents is, okay, let's set up a logistics system for everybody in China.
The next one is the perfect example. I guess I'm shopping at the Home Depot. Then I go to the store to pick up. So Jackie Ma actually said, okay, you can shop online. Then we deliver to your house. Then the first day they set up within 3 kilometers, deliver within 30 minutes, all fresh food. That reminds me that Amazon just acquired Whole Foods. But I believe Whole Foods should have adopted this type of service and surround your community, particularly in downtown area. And this is we can talk about later in the appendix. This is their strategic innovation framework. But I would like to emphasize another tool. One is the big data. 2 weeks ago, Alibaba established the first overseas database in Malaysia. And the Singapore Airline, Thailand Airline, and the 2 Malaysia big retail companies agreed to connect their Alibaba database to helping them to optimize the marketing expense, to helping them do the online e-marketing campaign, and helping Singapore and the Malaysia Airline to streamline the operation. So that's going to be another second wave, because the Chinese company innovation technology gradually work out the board to support the Asian market. The other one is, Alan probably need to emphasize that part, is the research institution. That's going to be Alibaba's brain. They not only try to establish the internal innovation capability, but also it's going to be a global talent attract center. They just hired Amazon chief scientist and the Oracle chief data scientist to join, and they relocate in Hangzhou now. So, and also they set up the 2 talent recruiting center. One is Silicon Valley, the other one in Japan.
One of the things, Mark, you look at R&D spending as a proportion of either total revenue or GDP. Guess which direction every Western country has been going? Downwards, including Silicon Valley from its early days. Guess who's increasing their share of R&D as a total of revenue? The Chinese and the Indians.
So this is a bold assumption. Do we need a bank? So because go back to, let's take a look at what does Alipay can offer. The third payment platform, real name registration, launched 2004. Currently, they have 450 million users. In China, we have the 200 financial institution partners has already connected this payment system. So you don't need to think about, do I need to withdraw my money to Scotiabank? I need to pay extra $3 to service fee, or I just walk into TD to withdraw money without paying anything.
Glenn's wife works at Scotiabank.
Offering payment around the 10 million small and micro merchants. So how big the Alipay looks like. So this is the Alipay looks at the ecosystem. Let's take a look at the number. Alibaba, it's like a small investment amount wealth management platform. Now they have 152 million annual users. And compared to Citi Security, 7 million users. The example is the minimum investment, you can pay 1,000 RMB if you have the small amount of money. You can purchase the wealth manager investment monthly return product through Alipay. And this is Alipay Finance. You can apply for a small loan if you want to do some business by yourself online. But Alipay will use your big data analysis to check your credit, whether you're capable of applying this small loan to build a business. Even for those university students, if they want to buy iPhone 7, it's 6,000. Alipay offer you 12 months payment without interest. Insurance. You can through Alipay to buy your car insurance, home insurance, travel insurance. Just within 2 years, it's accumulated 380 million users. Compared to China Life in total, there are only 400 million users. And they also offer, as I mentioned before, for the credit check payment. Take a look at all these categories, which is completely related to your daily life. Online shopping, gaming, dining, public welfare, which means you can pay for your insurance by yourself. Financial service, campus offer the students easy access, medical service. You can book a hospital doctor appointment. And the retail store, online shopping. Daily household, which means you can check your message center whether you are going to, when you get up on the bed to go on the way to your office, you can order some food, fresh food, and you can request delivered to your home. And then once you get off the office, you got the notice your package is already at your gate. And the money transfer, credit, mobile payment, and transportation. In the appendix, there's a one page. Actually, it's combined everything for your daily life. So now you will question, how does Ali Group to control the Alipay? So Mary probably has a number, right? They collected 32% or 3% for each transaction. But I have to give you another hint is, Ant Financial CEO was one of the Alibaba's founder. So actually, it's called Peng Shuai. she actually adopted Ma Yun's philosophy to build empire, but not directly connected with Alibaba, but also indirectly provide a service for Alibaba to get the growth. This company is going to public in China in next 2 years. So Mary will go through with you how big and what this ecosystem grew up from the beginning. So at the inner circle is Alibaba's core business. And outside, the outer circle is Alibaba keep either direct investors through the shareholder or indirect to allocate the internal high potential employee to be part of the company operation. This is before IPO. Then they keep buying through each different category, which is related to Alibaba core business. This is up to 2014, September. If you take a look at today's picture, in last 2 years, they're still growing. They actually like a monster to the vacuum to keep. I have to emphasize that part. They acquire a lot of the mutual fund companies, and they acquired offline shopping. Suning is one of the biggest offline home appliance company, which is compared to the Home Depot. And for this part, because the China middle class rise up, entertainment, movie, music, and then they also have the social network. Does they stop? No stop. They still keep doing the other one. Take a look at this one, automobile industry. They just have signed a partnership with Shanghai GM company, try to develop the car operating system. And now, because the rural area and the Chinese government policy, they are going to go to rural area for Taobao. So Alan will summarize this page to what is the real Alibaba's ecosystem. This is one of his favorite pictures.
Summarizing this page. I mean, but let me plant two thoughts. Stop thinking of a car as a car. A car is now a mobile, entertainment, transportation, information, communication device. That's why they've tied up in the car industry. So stop thinking about it as just transportation, whether it's self-drive or otherwise, because that's the way that they're thinking about it. So, you know, what it is an ecosystem that's built around sellers and buyers. And what they've done and what you've seen through the data is how they've made that ecosystem work. And it's not just cross-shareholding, it's agreements on payment systems, it's letting their own staff set up businesses within the system. But at the core of it is everything around the application of technology to make things easier for people to connect in an economy. So that's what they're really about. They're an economy. Think of themselves as an economy. So what can we learn? So this was Harvard. How do you reinvent the enterprise? They weren't talking about Alibaba particularly, but I think it applies. Keep resetting the vision. In other words, MBAs did terrible things to visions because most visions are, excuse the 5-letter word, crap. And you know, you never get, with apologies to Jim, never get a consultant to write your vision statement. Get your employees to write it, and especially the entrepreneurs in place. Experiment with business models. What you've seen in the development is constantly going, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. It's all along a theme. So this new sort of innovation and experimentation. Megan and John, I spend time with them because there are innovation chiefs here. Part of what's going on is, you know, controlled innovation, yes, in terms of cost, but just improving what you've already done doesn't hack it in the contemporary world. Focus on seizing and shaping strategic opportunities, not on executing plans. In another presentation, I have a wonderful quote which I stole from a CEO, which I love, that says, you've got to do plans, but hold them lightly. And I love that expression. Isn't that a beautiful expression? You hold them lightly so that they can move around with changes in the environment. It's not just operations. It's not just the process of planning. Get good at adaptation, which is why the culture element is so critical. Build systems that support fluidity. So one of these says, he has regular meetings with people from across his organization, and their job is together to come up with new businesses and new ideas, not just run their own individual unit. So what can we learn further? This is now more me. Never underestimate the entrepreneurial vision. So use that. You know, unfortunately a word dropped out of the lexicon about a decade ago, which was rising at one point in time, which was intrapreneurship. I kind of like the idea of entrepreneurship as well as entrepreneurship. So you want to encourage that thinking. Plan your future strategy based on your future vision, not where you're starting. Steve will tell you, because he's a strategy prof, the golden rule of strategy is you don't start from where you are now. You start from where you want to be and work backwards, so that you actually fit in your operation. Does that fit to where I think the world's going? The worst, the dilemma for most organizations, they're handcuffed by this is the way I've done things in the past, so I'm just going to improve it. That's not the way. A partnership nomination, look for strategic alliances in the broad networks. One of the programs we're gradually introducing is new management. You know, management has to move beyond command and control. Yeah, we know that, we've got flat organizations. But management's also going to look at strategic allies as part of the management challenge. They're not just suppliers any longer in this world. You've got to look at them, like the fintech world. Most of the banks are very smartly recognized in Canada. They're too big to innovate themselves. So they're beginning to do strategic deals with the fintechs. It's a different management proposition. You don't treat them like a supplier. You treat them as part of the team. Huge implications for risk management, process, how you manage, how you pay people. And that's one of the things Alibaba, by its network thinking, can teach us. Always, not surprising, key is to learn to anticipate customer buying patterns and use analytics to anticipate. You know, those of you who heard me speak before know one of my hated things is a totally false comment about Steve Jobs, that he never did research. BS. He did lots of research. What he didn't do was ask people what kind of cell phone do you want. What he did do is research on what was happening with mobility, what was happening to how people wanted to share information, how people wanted to be entertained, and then work back from that and create the products. And that's the right way around. So anticipate buying patterns doesn't mean doing checklists of research. It means watching what people get frustrated by. The story about Jack Ma recognizing during SARS, you know, people don't want to leave their homes, so let's move on it. And it's the speed at which he moved on it. Use technology not just as an efficient way to conduct traditional activities, but go for the new combinations. Malcolm's sitting at the back grinning, an ex-Nortel guy who set up his own business afterwards and made lots of money. Fortunately, we get it back. But one of the things Nortel did was anticipate for a while. Then they dropped the ball. Integrate. I'm trying to get a new acronym. It's called PPN. Private, public, not-for-profit. PPP, unfortunately, got totally misused. It was badly misunderstood. It meant basically private sector ripping off the public sector without any real partnership. Go to Scandinavia. Look how the Dutch are managing water systems, how the Swedes and the Danes and the Norwegians are managing transportation systems and telecommunication systems. And they're beginning to put together these networks of relationships which include the environmental people, which is why you've got bike sharing in Sweden as part of an integrated transportation system. Don't forget B2B in building networks, as you've shown. And funds could pay, you know, I mean, the question about banking was serious. You know, why do we need banks if the seller can actually put it all together? What else can we do? Going global means identifying the right opportunity. Why haven't we seen so much of Alibaba in North America? He's had an IPO here. But yeah, he wants to do business here, and he wants to do business globally, but guess where he's focusing? Where would you focus? You focus in the growth areas called Asia and Latin America. Unfortunately, not too many of our entrepreneurs understand that. Mobility access critical. What Alibaba's identified as seamless supply and payment of goods and services. So our acronym here, amongst the three of us, if Steve Jobs said, I'm in the business wherever people are to offer communication, information, and entertainment, we're thinking what Alibaba about is acquisition, information, communication, and entertainment. By the way, sports is entertainment. So there's rigid and agile. I'm not going to go through it again, just a point of emphasis. And so some ending points in organization development. You need connections with the external environment. You need to be constantly auditing wherever it is in the world. You know, during the time the Japanese were really cooking along, their top companies were learning from Africa and other places in the world. I'm afraid it's gone inward now. And again, I'll refer to Steve on this. So understanding how people behave, watch them. Understand how you could make that relationship. Whoever said finance was separate from the buying process? One of my friends is a guy called John Doig, who's the CMO of Scotiabank. And I phoned, when John did the deal with Cineplex on creating the SEEC card, I phoned him up and congratulated him. I said, John, you're the first bank that's recognized nobody wants a bank. What people want is the ability to have access to credit, money, and the ability of how to spend it better. And that was the relationship with Cineplex. So I'm hoping they continue to go further on that basis. Manage with staff input. My favorite example is my condo. They've just revised the security systems. You know who they didn't ask? The security guards. I mean, duh. You know, it's amazing. Look at formal organizational designs. We know that's not how organizations work, yet consultants, especially one with a big M and a small c, although I have to be nice to them because we wrote the book together, you know, still like doing big organizations. So we all know that's not how it works. Or, more important, what we learned from Alibaba is if it works that way, you get sterility. And what you've got to get is much more fluidness across the talent in your organization. Promote different interactions across the silos, across your partner networks. Foster self-organization, innovation at the personal level, right, Megan? Develop an organization and network culture of learning, and we're terrible at that. We're number 28 in the world out of 54 measured by the OECD on upgrading the skills of our managements. So what can we learn? I sent a note to John Tory. I don't want Amazon, I want Alipay here. That's the Jim right side of position for me. So that's it. So we're open for questions from the group that know much more about it, which is these two guys and the mouthy big Brit at the front. Yes, Jim.
So what's driving Amazon's profitability is Amazon.
It's actually making profit at the moment?
It is.
Good Lord.
It is.
How many times? 5 years they've made profit in the last 20?
But they're really coming on because of AWS, their Amazon Web Service.
Yeah.
And the reason AWS came is because they have this huge capacity crunch at Christmas, where they sell a lot, just like
60%
Day.
in November and December.
So you have all these servers, and then the rest of the year they're not being used. So then they think, we have all this unused capacity, why don't we sell our cloud to other people, and they disrupt the whole cloud. We didn't talk about this with Alibaba, but Singles Day doing $20 billion just by Alibaba on itself. Yep. Their capacity excess for the rest of the 364 days must be horrific. We didn't talk about an AWS equivalent for Alibaba.
Another one, yes.
And is it a huge driver of Alibaba's profitability, as in the case of Amazon?
I think 50-50, because in China we not only have Alibaba, we also have Jingdong. We also have another
big players. So actually these three big players actually compete each other, which we call the BAT, which is one is Baidu, the other one is Alibaba, the other one is Tencent. So don't forget another two player, which is Ctrip. And one of the most, Ctrip similar to Priceline in North America. Ctrip is going to be another one. So they all compete each other. That's why the venture capital or even the domestic investment, they're heavily to compete each other, try to get the part of share of the market.
There was an article over the weekend, and don't hold me whether I saw it in the Washington Post, New York Times, or Wall Street Journal. It was in one of those, saying the danger in the West is we've allowed the tech companies not even to be oligopolies, but almost to become monopolies. So you get the strength of an Amazon, or a Google, or an Apple. He said the why China is so dynamic is exactly what Glenn's just said. You've got aggressive competitors of all roughly the same size and pulling it on. But answer to your question, Jim, if they're not already doing it, I expected, because that was the basis for them thinking about their logistics business. So why not sell off the spare capacity? Absolutely.
I believe for the cloud service, they have already sold the capacity into the Asian market already. That's one of the very strong investments.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, you mentioned that there's about 22% use in China of the internet as opposed to 13%
In the US.
Is it the integrated features that are more so in China than here that causes that? Or is there something in the behavioral thinking process of a Chinese consumer as opposed to a US consumer that would cause that kind of gap,
Let me ask
especially
you
over
two
such
that
a
question.
short
So,
period of time?
is there anything inherent in the Chinese character as shoppers which makes them more willing to buy online? I'll answer from another point of view. Remember what the second largest country was, though? The UK. Napoleon called the UK the nation of shopkeepers, and you talk about intensity of retailability, very high in the UK, higher than the US. So there's another culture that's the second largest user of online. So from that evidence, I suggest not necessarily, but there may be stuff specifically in China.
I think the success of Alibaba is not just because Jacky Ma captured the technology, that part. It's because he captured the Chinese middle class rise up. This is the first my understanding. And think about this, and the current Chinese shopping pattern online actually driven by the Alibaba. Why I'm saying that? Because when I first came to Canada, I found a lot of the department store, bank, they have already established a well online payment system. You don't need to worry about how do I wire the money to other people. And then you can go through your home bank. Okay, you can use your credit card that issued by companies. Go back to 15 years ago. A lot of the planned controlled economy activity owned actually by the government. So Jacky Ma actually break this door to allow the people can free trade online, which is easily accessed. Adding on that, because nobody trusts each other in China, so why should I pay money to you? Somebody even meet someplace offline, try to give you, I give you my book, and you give me money, and somebody even rob them book and the money run out right away. So Jacky Ma say, okay, how do I can build the trust between each other? Then he developed the Alipay. So I think because of the economic development and the pattern of the consumer grow with Alibaba together, so now Chinese consumer completely switch the buying behavior. This is my understanding.
Sarah?
I mean, in the end, it's a data play, right? And it's very interesting to watch how Chinese companies are dealing with data. I accompanied my husband to a computer vision conference last week, and that whole area has just commercialized, right? And there were tons of Chinese companies there. But if I think about so a lot of this is what you're doing with the data. Alibaba has clearly positioned itself as linking buyers and sellers, and then what else can it do to use the data around it? But where I'll be very interested to see is how it can take what it can do so powerfully within China because of both the quantity of data that it gives and but also what it's allowed to do. So you mentioned that you can now go through a security line faster based on your credit score. When Alibaba came and did its roadshow last week, Jack and Justin Trudeau were on stage, and Jack Ma said to him, one of the big challenges in growing Chinese tourism in Canada is the fact that the lines for visas are too long, the
Yep.
waits are too long.
Yep.
Why don't you let Alibaba use our credit
Love
scores
that.
to help you accelerate that line? And it hit a big wall.
Yeah, no, really.
So there's, you know, and
Yeah.
it's interesting because
Absolutely.
if I think about the things that Alibaba is allowed to do, even in this competitive environment with the BATs, if a Google tried to do that in China, it would totally be stopped, right? And so this interaction between private and government is also very interesting to watch. And it's where they're going to butt into problems overseas.
Yeah. Sarah and I constantly support each other on problems we have with immigration, constantly shutting people out from spending money in this country.
Yeah.
Two comments overall on that. What's interesting though is you look at what the biggest product of one of their competitors is, which is Tencent's WeChat. Everybody shares everything. You know, and you're seeing that with the millennials and what are now being called the centennials, the next level down. And I talk to my undergraduate classes about it, and none of them have any sense, and I say, well, is there stuff you're going to be embarrassed about in 5 years? And their response is, who cares? And so you may hit walls with governments, but in private sector, we're breeding generations who are enacting exactly like the Chinese with WeChat, where everything's on it. It may open fewer doors. You're absolutely right. And there's no way Canadian immigration is going to allow Alibaba or anybody to control that. We may eventually allow Donald Trump to do that, but you know, that's another topic. There's going to be pressure from that kind of sharing and expectation from as the centennials and millennials move on. Malcolm?
What could hold them back?
Oh, good question. What can hold them back?
You know, we have a tendency because of journalism to say when a company's going up, it'll never stop, and when a company's going down, it's kaput, right? So this is going up in your concentric circles, brilliantly executed by brilliant people, a billion people market, you know, rapidly becoming middle class.
Plus India, plus you look at where they're all going.
Yeah, I know, but that's the interesting part. There's action and reaction in society to powerful companies, powerful people. So what could hold them back? Is it the fact that they're still...
I've answered one, and I'll let you and Mary answer the other, which is I would find it very worrying, the statement by the Chinese government, that they want to take some equity in the major Chinese tech privates.
So this is what I have in mind. Every country has mindsets which are hang-ups which stop them growing. You can see what's happening in the US right now.
Yeah.
And all over the world it happens like that. China wants their success, and there's a control freak aspect to all this. Yes. So can Alibaba become a genuinely international company rather than a Chinese company being real smart about its deals around the world, when its reputation in the world is win-win for China and lose for a lot of other people? I've talked to organizations that are the small merchants who are in competition, and they say that Alibaba is too predatory for them. They say that Alibaba wants to make wants to take the margin, the wholesale business. They want to take the margin, put the 25% in their pocket, and screw the vendors. So I keep coming back to that thing: is that what could hold them back, or is it the sky the limit?
The other potential factors that will hold them back is personal private information. Think about it this way. Then if we take a look at Alibaba global expansion strategy, they just step into the developed country. But in developing country, particularly in China, the people is not that sensitive about what is my personal information. So if we think about Canada, if the Alibaba connected the merchandise and connect those payments, so they actually can literally analyze what is a favorite, how do you purchase, what is the purchase history. It's difficult to make the Canadian government feel comfortable. So are you going to know better our country economy? So once they get all the retail data, they actually can literally forecast what is the production, what is the capacity of the company economy. That's one of the potential factors that will hold them back. Therefore, Alibaba actually take another strategy. They heavily step into developing country, as well as the one Belt One Road, that country So for example, Indonesia, for example, Georgia, the government actually welcomed them by using the Alibaba financial infrastructure, helping them to boost up the capacity and
And the
efficiency.
Indians as well.
As well Indians.
Could you ever see a situation in which Jack Ma would be allowed to move his world headquarters to Singapore, as opposed to
World
China?
headquarters, no.
No, but
But global regional headquarters,
well,
absolutely.
yeah, potentially.
Well, regional, yeah, because regional can be branch plans.
But also
Even
think
if
about
it's a very large branch.
what is the next economy engine in the world, mostly in Asia. So probably he will set up the second quarter in Asia
I'd go to Indonesia.
rather than North America. But he's key on for those commodity. Would that be possible? He can leverage the Alibaba, the huge platform, to provide the premium service and goods to China people. That's the ultimate goal. The original entrepreneurial blood is belong to China.
There's a third barrier, but then we're going to come down here to the front. The third barrier, every entrepreneurial organization faces, which is what happens when the entrepreneur leaves. And so the question becomes, how much of what I've talked about is in the culture so that it can keep going? But we all know the loss in energy that you see as you move from an entrepreneurial to a generally established organization. So that's always another one.
It's interesting, you're talking a little bit about privacy, and I think personal privacy and the amount of data that they have and the barriers to entry into Europe and more mature economies. And if you look at what's emerging now in terms of data as human rights, and that obligation in Europe and in the UK under legislation and the sort of adoption of at least Canada in the early stages quite quickly as possible for that. I think it always comes back, and I'm in banking, so full disclosure here, but I'm speaking from a personal perspective on my views over, not for RBC, I'm asking this question in terms of interest over, you posed a question which I thought was interesting, do we need banks?
Yeah.
And as an economist, I think I always ask that question, why have we needed infrastructure? I sort of counter with, do we need regulation? And in the data economy, the data doesn't care about regulation, but sovereignty is a very important issue when we talk about, our personal data of our constituents or our people in our population. And the reason we have Privacy Acts and the reason we have Bank Acts is to protect that information.
Absolutely.
And to correct the barriers of sovereignty around our economic walls as a nation state. I think what's interesting when we look at a digital economy is agnostic of sovereignty. It cares little. However, so there's still an obligation for citizenship and sovereignty. And I was interested in a model whereby they partnered in Singapore with the airlines, and they put a data ecosystem there. There's a huge amount of probably anonymized personal data that's being shared across the industry. That's regulated from a safety and security perspective, but not necessarily the same type of regulation and scrutiny globally as privacy in terms of the customer. The customer could consent. I can give you my consent to use my data to market to me, but you don't have all of my financial portfolio and all of my personal identifiable information. And so there's a huge differentiation. So I asked the question of you and of do we need regulations? If we ask the question, do we need banks? The question that follows is, do we need regulation? Alibaba is going to step around that through integration. But the world itself is going to continue to ask the question, how do we manage data in the data economy without regulation?
That's one of the factors I believe the Chinese government made a decision. They are trying to get each small shareholder investment to hold those private sector, which not allow you to manipulate those data, even manipulate the financial investment market. Back to 2014, Jackie Ma, one of the company invested for the fund, infrastructure and the mutual fund company. Actually, they did manipulate that data, which caused the market 5 minutes fluctuate within the 15 to 20%. Then because of we have the burn system, the financial regulator just stopped the market right away. So after that, the company almost, I believe, paid 10 billion, the fines.
Such a good question. I'm going to answer the question. It was risky asking an economist question like that. I don't think we know yet. One of the things I watch is, because we have a cybersecurity specialization, is Canada has, and you can see this across so many sectors, an amazing naivety about privacy and data. We somehow, because we live in a regulated oligopolistic marketplace, we tend to trust. We may not love our banks, but we trust them. Because we don't know yet that you get a message saying, gee, I know you're thinking about going so and so. Have you thought about getting this? And by the way, make sure you get medical insurance for your spouse who's going with you. And here's a way. We haven't got that kind of communication yet that gets us deep into what we might be thinking. And I think at that point in time, the rise of issues about privacy in the user world will pop up. I don't think we're there yet. People want our suppliers, and there's a lot of research on this, to know a little bit more about us, to stop sending me irrelevant stuff, sending me stuff that's relevant. But I think the next stage, when it does begin to worry people, and my cybersecurity people tell me money is not the big issue right now, it's medical records. And medical records is now becoming a huge, packed global marketplace for sharing medical records around. That begins to get real close to people and may have a reverse effect.
And I also will comment on that. I think this is going to be a kind of the dilemma for current Chinese government, because on the one hand, Chinese government wants to leverage the innovation to boost the economy and try to satisfy the policymaker, that part. On the other hand, because there's such a huge population for Chinese population base, there are actually 90% of the AI, artificial deep learning, that's applications at the incubation center actually established in China, because they know that Chinese people are not that sensitive for the personal data collector. So a lot of the real application actually developed in China, and they export back to the North America. So China government is kind of a dilemma. So whether they are going to leverage technology to turn over the China become the great China in the future, or they have to stop this kind of the information leak and protect the domestic residential. They still have some dilemma.
Jim has another question, but a quick comment. There's a very interesting thing that's happened with what's called the Edelman Trust Monitor. Edelman's been doing trust monitors for about 19 years, presented at Davos each year. I think it's 55 countries. They do samples of both general population and also what they call influencers. The results over the last few years have been consistently down everywhere. And in fact, Canada, for the first time last year, moved into the non-trusting category. We don't believe our system is working. It's the first time it popped up. And NGOs are still slightly trusted, but then businesses, media and government was down in trust. One country that's continuous going up in their surveys in trust is China. Now, part of that, I think, is the emergence of the middle class is saying, yes, I never really had privacy, the government's always told me what to do, as long as I have a better life, I'm not going to fuss about it. So at some point in time, will that turn back? But your comment about the rest of the world, but my comment on bringing up the Edelman research, is I'm not sure we're in a trusting of the system environment, even in Canada, which has traditionally been way ahead of the States in trusting our institutions. So there's some interesting stuff happening there with privacy. Jim?
To your point about mindsets, the protectionist America First policy is sharply contrasted with the philosophy of China,
No kidding.
where companies, great about mentioning Alipay with developing nations, and I know, for instance, Huawei is continually investing in the telco infrastructure of developing nations.
Yep.
So this is a philosophy of integrating with countries around the world, providing infrastructure, which then you can overlay services and data services and on. So while America is looking inward,
Yep.
China is focused outward.
Yep. And they make it very clear that they are. So they're going to be leading the Trans-Pacific Partnership discussions and the TCC. So they're stepping in. We're at 9:30. So those of you who want to disappear, but you don't have to. There's coffee and people around. We'll chat. Overall comment. I want to thank my co-presenters, but the people who really did all the work. And despite the fact that Glenn's bigger, there's various that are so far behind us as well.